The moment the CEO's voice echoed through the marble-floored executive hallway, time seemed to hesitate, as if the building itself was holding its breath. "Pretend you kiss me for 7 minutes." That single sentence, spoken in desperation rather than desire, would collide two lives from opposite ends of the world and unravel secrets, pain, and a quiet kind of love no one saw coming. What happened next would stun everyone who witnessed it, not because of romance, but because of humanity. Before the story pulls you deeper, pause for just a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing the right thing when no one expects it, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ethan Carter was a man most people never noticed. He arrived before sunrise and left long after the offices went dark, pushing his cleaning cart through silent corridors of one of the tallest corporate buildings in the city. To most employees, he was just the janitor, the man who emptied trash cans and polished floors until they reflected lives far more successful than his own. But behind Ethan's tired eyes lived a story heavy with loss and responsibility. He was a single father to a 6-year-old boy named Noah, a child with asthma and a smile that could soften even the hardest day. Ethan's wife had died 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him with grief that never fully healed and a child who depended on him for everything. Every mop stroke, every scrubbed stain, was another hour earned toward rent, medication, school lunches, and the fragile stability he fought to maintain. Across the building, in an office lined with glass and steel, lived a completely different kind of pressure. Claire Whitmore was the CEO, a woman celebrated in business magazines for her ruthless intelligence and calm authority. She had climbed a ladder no one believed she could, sacrificing friendships, love, and even her own health to reach the top. That morning, her world was unraveling. A crucial merger hung in the balance, and the board had arrived early with suspicions, rumors, and a demand for proof that she was stable, composed, and fully in control. What they did not know was that Claire had just received devastating news about a personal betrayal that threatened not only her position but her reputation. Panic, rare and unwelcome, crept into her chest as the board gathered outside her office. In a moment of reckless instinct, driven by fear rather than logic, Claire stepped into the hallway. She needed a distraction, a human shield, something that would silence the rumors and delay the confrontation just long enough for her to regain control. That was when she saw Ethan. He stood there with his cleaning cart, eyes lowered, respectful and invisible as always. She made a request that stunned him, one that sounded absurd and humiliating, asking him to pretend intimacy in front of the board members for a few minutes so they would assume a consensual personal matter rather than a professional crisis. For Ethan, the request felt like a threat disguised as opportunity. He needed the job. He needed the paycheck. Saying no could cost him everything. As they stood there, watched by powerful eyes filled with judgment and curiosity, Ethan felt the weight of his entire life pressing down on him. But something unexpected happened. Instead of acting embarrassed or submissive, he grounded himself. He thought of Noah waiting at home, of the night spent holding a wheezing child, of promises made at a hospital bedside. He chose dignity. He chose humanity. He did what was asked, but not in the way anyone expected. There was no greed in his eyes, no hunger for advantage. There was only calm, respect, and a quiet strength that transformed the moment from scandal to something deeply human. The board members, expecting chaos, instead saw composure. The hallway, once tense, softened. Afterward, when the danger had passed and the building returned to its normal rhythm, something lingered between Ethan and Claire. It was not romance, at least not at first. It was recognition. Claire saw, for the first time in years, someone who had nothing to gain and everything to lose, yet still chose integrity. She began to notice Ethan in ways she never noticed anyone below the executive level before. She learned his name. She learned about Noah. She learned about the nights he slept in his car when money was tight and the mornings he showed up anyway, determined not to fail his son. Life did not magically become easier for Ethan. Noah's health worsened for a time, medical bills piled up, and exhaustion became a permanent companion. But change had started. Claire quietly arranged better hours for him, then a benefits review, then training opportunities he never imagined he could access. Not out of pity, but out of respect. As weeks passed, conversations grew longer, trust grew deeper, and both began to heal parts of themselves they thought were permanently broken. Claire softened, learning to let go of control. Ethan began to believe that his life could be more than survival. The day Noah was rushed to the hospital during a severe asthma attack, Ethan thought he would lose everything again. But he did not stand alone. Claire was there, not as a CEO, but as a human being, sitting in a hospital chair, reminding him that strength did not mean facing pain alone. In that sterile room, under harsh lights and quiet prayers, Ethan realized that 7 minutes in a hallway had rewritten his future. Years later, the building still stood tall, and people still hurried through its doors without looking down. But for those who knew the story, it became a reminder that the smallest moments, the ones we think are meaningless or humiliating, can become the turning points that define our lives. Ethan was no longer invisible. Claire was no longer alone. And Noah grew up knowing that his father's quiet courage changed more than just their own lives. If this story touched something deep inside you, if it reminded you that kindness can rise from the most unexpected places and that dignity can change destiny, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that need them. And before this story ends, we ask you one special thing. Please comment the word hope if you believe that even in the darkest moments, one brave choice can change everything.